So I'm going to put a trigger warning on this video due to some specific information I'm going to talk about concerning hate groups that Christians and Christianity either started, supports, or funds. And for people who don't want to get into all that, that's just a heads up. So when I left Christianity and fundamentalist churches, I realized how many hate groups on existing hate group lists in America Christians support, founded, partner with, and keep going, or they excuse their behavior. The Ku Klux Klan. Various independent Ku Klux Klan groups have historically incorporated Protestant, Christian-led, white supremacist beliefs. Christian identity movement adherents, various ministries and fellowships that explicitly follow Christian identity ideology. The idea of an Aryan eugenics, a prominent religious-based white supremacy hate groups. Christian Defense League. What about some hate groups that fall under anti-LGBT groups? Westboro Baptist Church, known for extreme protesting during funerals of fallen or murdered queer people. Family Research Council, the FRC, a conservative advocacy group that is listed as an anti-queer hate group. The American Family Association, AFA, a nonprofit organization that promotes Christian values and has been a designated hate group against the LGBTQ plus alliances. Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, a legal advocacy group that focuses on religious freedom cases such as the SBLC. I wonder if they're the group that pays for people like Kim Davis's legal fees. Liberty Counsel, a legal and policy organization known for anti-LGBTQIA plus instances of litigation. Abiding Truth Ministries, focus on the family. Concerned Women for America, Dove World Outreach Center, Mass Resistance, are many others listed under the SPLC. I grew up under Focus on the Family. I want to also include Moms for Liberty. They go after LGBTQIA groups, books, movies, any curriculum that expresses something that isn't heterosexual. Why does Christianity consistently support racist, homophobic, transphobic, sexist ideology? Because the Bible is the perfect example of how to excuse, enable, and support every single bad ideology you could probably put on a billboard somewhere. Why Christian nationalism is considered a hate group. Have we seen January 6th? I mean, that was actually in the Turner Diaries. The idea that people would storm the Capitol. The book that, if I remember correctly, the Turner Diaries was written. This book was written by William Pierce. He may not have been religiously Christian, but he did found the neo-Nazi white supremacist group National Alliance. I think it was in the 1970s. He used white radicalist religion combined with Darwinism and white race ideology that's prolific in Christianity. The Turner Diaries has been labeled the Bible of the racist right. This book has been worshipped by Christian Identity Movement, a hate group. It's rumored it inspired the January 6th Christian nationalist uprising that harmed many people. I think a few people died. There's a reason why Christianity just seems to consistently support racism. Because it was the most ardent supporter of slavery. Before Roe versus Wade was passed in the 70s, denominations like Southern Baptist actually supported women's suffrage, women's reproductive autonomy. Once Roe versus Wade passed, the Southern Baptist Convention changed their mind and decided that abortion was a grave sin. Even though nowhere in the Bible does it ever say that abortion is a sin. Nowhere does it say that women have to have children. It does say children are a blessing, but that doesn't mean it's a blessing for everyone. Especially if you're in poverty, in poor places that are lucky to even understand reproduction, have access to health benefits. It's rare. The more Republican and right-leaning you are, the less access you have to quality health care, safe prophylaxis, abortion options. There's high poverty. And if you live in Republican cities, the most violent cities for murder capita by statistics are in Republican cities. So, churches support hate groups and anti-LGBTQIA hate groups because there's really not really a difference between the hate group and Christianity. Christianity has always exploited, harmed, and villainized and demonized anyone who wasn't a cis heterosexual man, usually white. They supported slavery, the Comstock laws. A preacher, I think, came up with the Comstock laws. It's just the way life is. And I hope to change it. And I grew up in Southern Baptist ideology. It's very racist, white supremacy, and I'm not going to say that every church is like that, because one size does not fit all. I've been in 7 churches from 3 of the biggest denominations. I don't think it's racist when most, I'd say 90% of the people in church are white, obviously. But there is just a very racist thread that goes through Christianity. And it's not a surprise that a lot of religious people, especially women of color, voted against their race and voted against their best interests in the 2024 election. Can you imagine African American women voting for Trump? A man who has made it very clear how he views women, anyone who isn't white or privileged, he shows them nothing but contempt. But they still voted for him anyway. Nothing surprises me. Because historically, people who they seem to always vote against what's good for them. And it's not about being political. It's just the way religion is. And I've received a lot of negative feedback from my videos. Nothing about this is political. It's about doing the right thing. It's about being a consistently decent human being. And I don't tell people how to live their lives. I made that pretty clear. I don't tell people how to live. I call out people when they choose to live a life that makes the patriarchy more dominant. When they vote for people that have nothing but contempt for the people who voted for them. And it's sad. It's really sad when people who are not white consistently vote for candidates that do not see them as equal or as human. But even, and let's not talk about politics right now. We're talking about churches who support bad people. Like, why do they do this every single election? Why do they vote and support? And some of the big churches actually endorse candidates, which is illegal, by the way. If you endorse any political movement, any candidate, you lose your tax exemption status. Making people adhere to a racist ideology. Schools that are tax-free or nonprofits that are tax-free, if you endorse things like racism and political candidates, you lose your tax exemption status. And I went to school, well, I was homeschooled, but I used a BECA curriculum. They lost their tax exemption status in the mid-'80s because they could not stop penalizing people for dating interracially. You would be suspended and thrown out of school if a white person dated somebody who wasn't white. This is the kind of curriculum and education I've had. There's a reason why wise people call Christianity white man's religion. Because nothing enabled and excused colonialization, genocide, the raping of indigenous women like the Bible. The Bible has always been used to rationalize and explain away awful behavior. And I've made videos that if Christians have historically, consistently supported things like slavery and the worst traits of being Caucasian, it's not a one-off. It's who they are. There are religions and belief systems that are not as racist as others. But if I had to nominate which denominations of Protestantism are the most racist, I would nominate Southern Baptist or Mormonism. Because Mormons, I took a class in Mormonism, they actually believe that anybody who isn't white dies, becomes white after death. Southern Baptists, they would not admit slavery was wrong for 130 years after President Lincoln freed the slaves in 1865. Took him till 1995 to even admit in writing that slavery was evil. These are the kind of people I'm talking about. You shouldn't even have to put it in writing that slavery is wrong. I mean, it's just common sense. The idea that men could own men was a biblical right well before Lincoln was even born. The idea that women are the property of men is found in the Bible. Women are listed with cattle. When Christians can't not support the worst traits of our ethnicity, you get the idea. White man's religion has gaslit indigenous and people who are not white into believing Christianity saves them. And yet, voting Christian and conservative does the exact opposite when it comes to protecting autonomy, women's reproductive rights, and racism, or the lack of wanting racism. It does the exact opposite. Christianity has always protected man's privilege, white man's privilege. Christianity is one of the reasons why it took women hundreds of years to get suffrage. And why do Christians, up until the civil rights movement, why they supported the Ku Klux Klan and every hate group imaginable? Because that is Christianity to its core. They can't stop hating people or demonizing people. That's why Christian nationalists hate trans people. They're a threat to white man's privilege, heteronormative privilege.